I assume I'm speaking to a room full of true believers. I wonder how many clients there are. How many? We have 1, 2, 3. Don't be shy, you won't be lynched. One of the real challenges in this work is persuading clients to do things differently. I had the rare privilege of being the CEO of the Commonwealth Government's initiative in driving innovation and new development in this industry in the early 90s. We had a series of key performance indicators, and I'm pleased to tell you that we scored 100% on one in particular, and that was that we managed to offend every sector of the industry more or less equally. But none more than the clients, because the proposition that they might have some responsibility for what was then the parlous state of the industry was offensive. It was really for the designers and the constructors and the unions to work out what they'd done wrong and to do things differently. And I'm sad to say that that still seems to be an attitude that is too widely prevalent amongst the both private and public sector client community. So I'm not going to bore you with a lot of statistics today. The Allen Consulting Group was commissioned a few years ago now to do an evaluation of the costs and benefits of wider adoption of BIM, and they've come up with some quite useful numbers that demonstrate there is a benefit. I'd like to talk though about other elements of benefit to clients that can be won by them doing quite simple things. The key proposition is that we need teamwork and collaboration to optimise what we get from BIM. Again, those of you who have used it, those of you who've had the joy of working in a highly integrated project team will know exactly what that means. The proposition, though, that BIM is an end in itself is plainly limited. BIM is an extraordinarily capable enabler of a whole range of benefits in the design process, the determination of constructability and then efficiency in construction. But it does need higher levels of integration, particularly at design stage, than we've had in the past under orthodox methods of procuring buildings. Who cares? If the clients don't seem to care, why should we? Sumit's mentioned yet another inquiry announced last week by the Council of Australian Governments into efficiency and productivity in the construction industry. That's 3 in 20 years, roughly. We had the Giles Royal Commission, and around about the same time, all the different inquiries commissioned by the Commonwealth Government and state governments that led to the creation of CIDA. We've had the Giles Royal Commission poking around and coming up with a whole lot of recommendations, and now we're to have 3 eminent people, whoever they may be, spending a year to tell us what we probably already know, that we need to do things differently. And we need, I suggest, to start from one very simple starting point. For every project, our objective should be to achieve outstanding project outcomes. And that's not just for the client. It's to make sure that our end users get everything they expected from the asset we're creating for them. That the business case for the project sponsors, the funders and the client is met or exceeded. That the team achieves their financial objectives. Most importantly, that the team enjoys working together and want to work together again. And this, I think, is really one of the fundamental planks in the building blocks that need to be created to optimise the use of BIM. I carried out a research study for the Property Council about 10 years ago, identifying the things that very successful projects had in common. I did that by asking people in the industry to nominate the best projects that they'd worked on. One of them was suggested as a control. A bad project was the extension of a major shopping centre in New South Wales. That traded it, once the extension was complete, traded its head off. Financial returns to tenants and the landlord, the owner of the shopping centre, were exceeded enormously. Ultimately, the team all made some money, but they never wanted to work together again, and we asked why. They mentioned the name of the project director, and we understood. This was the project director from the Hitler School of Human Resource Management. Do as you're told, and there's a lump of 4B2 with a rusty nail out the back if you misbehave. So despite the fact that the project had gone well, so well in fact that the owner, one of the major life officers in Australia, said every time I drive past Warringah Mall I can feel my blood pressure rising. And this was 3 years after the work had been completed. And lastly, of course, the fifth key indicator of what is a very successful project is that we meet and exceed, if possible, all the community's expectations and our own of safety standards, design, environmental outcomes, and where we're building assets for the public good, the social objectives as well. So how do we go about achieving this? We do need change. The fact that COAG has decided to have another look at the industry is suggestion enough that we need to continue to look at productivity. We are seeing clients wanting more for less. This is a worldwide phenomenon. We see recognition that there is in fact embedded considerable waste and wasted effort in the way we do things. And there's no better example of that than the way in which design is normally conducted, the benefits that the use of integration of the team and BIM, benefits that those twin developments drive, only shows up how poorly we have managed the design process and the integration of design with construction. We can do a lot better. And the third driver, of course, is the fact that after years and years of working towards more and more sophisticated software, we have now not only the software but extraordinarily cheap hardware that enables us to manage the process differently. It's about the journey as well as the end result. It is about the team enjoying the process, enjoying working together and delivering benefits to everyone concerned. The greater the level of integration, the greater the benefits. We've stopped talking about integrated project teams within ACIF. We talk now about the level of integration. The grail, the holy grail, is not the integrated project team. The objective we are suggesting to clients is that you integrate the team as far as you are able, given the constraints of whatever your policy, probity and process issues might be. And the more integrated they are, the more likely it is you're going to get a better financial result. Teams are going to be more likely to work collaboratively because they, through the process of collaborative design, learn to understand each other, respect each other and work well together. That in turn minimises the risk of disputes and minimises the wasted effort that is endemic at the moment. The numbers are large, people may question them, but there is respectable research from around the world, from the US, Europe, the UK and here, that suggests we waste anything up to about 30% of our effort through things like poor documentation, design iterations that are unnecessary, fruitless meetings, poor handover from one trade to another that leads to unnecessary defects. So, collaboration doesn't just happen, we know that. Clients are in a unique position to determine the level of integration that prevails on their projects. They're the ones who can set the tone, the culture, the quality of the relationships, and of course the commercial framework at the beginning of projects that will ensure collaboration can take place. Those strategic decisions involve making a selection of a project director, for example, on the basis of his or her skill in managing teams rather than just driving the lowest possible cost outcome. The strategic decision about risk appetite is critical. How much risk are they prepared to take, or are they not prepared to take any at all? What's their approach to financial rewards to the team? Do clients consider every dollar extra paid to a contractor $1 less for them and something to be resisted, or do they recognise the need for the team to be adequately rewarded? And above all else, their attitude to trust. What has their previous experience of dealing with our industry taught them in terms of the need for trusting relationships and the trustworthiness of contractors? What can they do? First, they can require the use of BIM. And, I should add, then insist that it is used and used as predicted or specified. They can do simple things like insist on a co-location of the client, the designers and the construction team. One of the projects that I looked at 10 years ago for the Property Council was the then new grandstand facilities at the Brisbane cricket ground, the Gabba. That was a case of co-location where the client project director was in the same office as the designers and the constructors are all on site at the Gabba. And we said to the client project director, there's nothing in the disputes file, there don't seem to be any punch-ups here at all. And he said, no, it was very difficult. We all worked so well together that if I had to write a nasty letter, I'd in effect be writing it to myself, and I wasn't going to do that. Co-location, one water cooler, one photocopier, one coffee machine, very hard to be anything other than collaborative in that environment. The communication protocols need to encourage open communication and trust. We need head contractors at an early stage to warrant too that their trade contractors will be collaborative, that they too won't have been bought simply on price, but have a willingness to behave collaboratively. And then, of course, most importantly, what the clients can do is dictate and demand that trades be involved in design development at an early stage before the designs of architects and engineers get to the stage that they are unlikely to be changed because their creators are in love with their designs and just as importantly, hard to change because local authority approvals are costly and time consuming to alter. So what does this achieve for clients? Greater integration of contractors at early stages, fewer missed steps, better handover between trades, the involvement of contractors in design, which in turn brings all their experience starting with commissioning and working back to ensure that clients get what they want in an operating asset. In terms of cost reduction and focus of the quantum of design skills on the early stages, this approach, the integration of trade contractors and the use of BIM at early stages means that contractors can nominate what information they want to pull, what is the design information that they want, rather than simply receive what the designers think they need. I once asked a major aluminium window manufacturer, commercial, how much of the drawings that architects provided to them they used, and he said about 40%. So 60% of the detail work that architects were doing in that trade was wasted. It would have been far more efficient for the architect's job captain to sit down with the senior draftsman of the contractor and work out what they really needed and pull that, rather than have to sift through a whole lot of documentation that no one was going to use. The waste of design fees on ridiculous, unneeded detailed design that could have been better applied at the front end, thinking through better solutions, is just silly. And then, of course, buildability, the great advantage that BIM delivers, particularly if it's harnessed to integrated project delivery, where trade contractors and builders, the builder, can work out how, day by day, they're going to build the asset. And of course, the excellent project outcomes, which, top of the list, include end user satisfaction and clients' feasibility being met. What's ACIF doing? ACIF has a very exclusive little club, has 16 members. AMCA is one. The others include the Property Council. Master Builders Housing Industry Association, the Australian Constructors Association, the Sparkies, fire people, precast concrete, most people, architects, consulting engineers and quantity surveyors as well. So it's an interesting church. What are we doing? We've been working now for a bit over 3 years with our government counterpart, the Australasian Procurement and Construction Council, on a handful of tools and guides. One is called the Case of Project Team Integration, that is at a all but final stage. There's a draft that's been signed off by both organisations in June that needs a bit more work. Separately, we're working up a project team integration workbook which focuses on the things that clients can do simply at the beginning of projects to put together teams that are more integrated than they've been in the past, and that also will go on and talk about what project managers and contractors and trade contractors and designers can do as well to get the benefits of integration and BIM. We're also gathering case studies. Earl mentioned the fact that there have recently been a number of projects that started out as BIM projects, didn't end that way. We're just as interested in those as in those that have been very successful. We need to capture lessons learnt. And of course, persistent advocacy. We just keep belting away at this, trying to persuade clients that there is something in it for them, and the fact that they have a happy project team will translate into dollars is something that is very important to us. For more, there's the website. Thank you for your attention, and enjoy the rest of your day.